Hello and welcome to our Year 6 Taster Sessions. I'm Mr. Skiro. I'd first just like to take this opportunity to say how delighted we are to welcome you all to RCS, and we can't wait to meet all 222 of you who will make up our new Year 7. In fact, for next year, we are full to capacity. Your start date at RCS will be Monday the 5th of July, and I know that our students and teachers are hugely excited to meet you. At this event, we need your help to solve a murder mystery. With the help of some of our teachers in English, Maths and Science, we've got a series of challenges for you to unpick. In English, you're going to be looking closely at the evidence and making some inferences to see if you can work out who is our prime suspect. In Maths, we need your code cracking skills to help us get into a locked cupboard which contains more clues. And finally, in Science, we've got lots of forensics to get through. Can you help us analyse the fingerprints of our suspects and test some samples taken from them? Now, before we start, let's meet the teachers that you'll be working with tonight. From English, we have our Head of English, Mr. Claxton, who is joined by Key Stage 3 Coordinator, Miss Bunclark, and our Literacy Coordinator, Miss Keogh. From Maths, we have our Key Stage 3 Coordinator, Mr. McMahon, and from Science, we have Head of Science, Mr. Morley, who is joined by Miss Harrison and Miss Batty. So, let's head over to the crime scene where Miss Keogh and Miss Bunclark are going to talk you through the evidence.
Good evening, Year 6, and welcome to Romarsh Community School.
Welcome to English Tasters Part Transition Evening. I'm Miss Keogh.
And I'm Miss Bunclark.
And have we got something to tell you?
There's been a murder at Romarsh, and we need your help to solve this awful crime.
So what's happened? Well, the police have been called to a crime scene at RCS where Mrs. Hazard has been murdered. You Year 6 are required to investigate. CCTV is currently being checked as we speak.
But before we have a look at the crime scene, we need to think about what is an inference. What is an inference, Miss Keogh?
Well, knowledge plus evidence is inference. Knowledge is
what you already know,
and evidence is
what you can figure out by what we give to you.
And together, that makes an inference. Let's have a look at some images from the crime scene and see what we can infer. First up, we've got this mapped out body of Mrs. Hazard from the crime scene. Pause the video now and jot down what you can infer, clues that you can pick out.
Next, we have the murder weapon. Think about who may use this murder weapon. Where might you find it? Why is it significant? Pause the video now and have a little think.
Next up, we've got this footprint that was left behind from the crime scene. Pause the video and jot down what you can infer. What type of person might have left this footprint behind?
Now we have a locked cupboard. Think about, why is this cupboard locked? Who might have put something in here and why? Pause the video now and have a little think.
Finally, we've got these leftover letters that were left at the crime scene. The letters are T-R-I-T-O-R-A. Pause the video and see if you can make out a word which could be a leading clue from the crime scene.
Well, what did you infer? How has the murder happened? Well, Mrs. Hazard has been murdered with a book. The school book clearly means it has taken place in school. It must be someone who works in the school, as they are the only ones who have access to the school.
What may the size of the footprint indicate? Well, it's quite a large footprint, normally associated with a male. What's significant about the locked cupboard? Well, this indicates there's something in the cupboard that's out of bounds. There could be a crucial clue lurking in the cupboard.
What do the leftover letters spell? Well, if you got traitor, you got it right. Well done. A traitor means someone who's been betrayed. Who could have been betrayed? I wonder.
The CCTV has been checked. 3 people were seen leaving the building around the estimated time of the murder. Mr. Claxton, Mr. McMahon and Mr. Morley. What
Now-
could this mean?
Yes, Miss Keogh, what could this mean? Now we're going to pass you over to maths and science to help decipher these crucial clues. Good luck!
Well done for completing the first stage of our murder case. You were able to use your strong inference skills to narrow down what happened in that room and to find us potential murder weapons and other key bits of evidence. Now, those inference skills don't stop there. You need to try and continue working hard to work out exactly who was responsible for this horrible crime. Now, from that murder weapon, we've been able to find some fingerprints. And from our CCTV, where we saw the 3 potential suspects, we've taken their fingerprints. But we need time to process those and try and match them up. The footprint that we found was also useful because we were able to take some substances that were left on the floor, and we're going to take some analysis of that and match it to the shoes and footprints of our 3 suspects. Before we can do that, we need to try and narrow down who our suspects were and find any potential reasons why they might have wanted to kill Mrs. Hazard. So let's meet our suspects. Now, at this point, it's going to be really important that you remember who each suspect is and what their suspect number is on the screen. So it'd be very useful if you could pause the video right now and write down that Mr. Claxton is suspect number 1, Mr. Morley is suspect number 2, and Mr. McMahon is suspect number 3. This is going to be vital when it comes to later parts of this PowerPoint and you see what the different numbers relate to. It'd be very important and very good idea if you use this opportunity to also note down everything that you learn over the next part of this video and see if you can rule out and work out who the actual criminal was. So let's meet our first one. Mr. Claxton is the head of English, and it's very clear from our interview that he loves books and reading. His height is 6'2" and his feet are size 10. See if you can use any of this information to work out whether it's a potential reason why he might be the killer or any potential reasons why it might rule him out. Now, our second suspect is Mr. Morley, and he is the head of science. It's very clear in our interview that he was passionate about his subject, believing it to be of vital importance to every student at this school. He's slightly taller than Mr. Claxton at 6'3", and his feet are also slightly bigger at size 11. And our final suspect is Mr. McMahon, and he's the Key Stage 3 coordinator for maths. Again, in our interview, it became very clear that he is not a fan of books. He much prefers numbers and sees words and reading as less important than his subject. He's slightly smaller than the others at 5'10", and his feet also are slightly smaller. So based on all of this, see if you can think any reasons why one of them might be ruled out, or it suggests any stronger reasons why someone could be more likely to have killed Mrs. Hazard. Now, before we go through to some analysis, it's been very clear that the cupboard we found on the crime scene is very important. But, as it stands, we can't get into that cupboard. So we're going to need your help in the next part of this to try and crack that code and get into that cupboard to see if we can narrow down the evidence even further to try and point the finger at the correct criminal.
Hi there everyone, now my name is Mr. McMahon and I'm going to be talking you all through everything to do with maths now, and we're going to link this to the murder that we've heard from the English department already today. Now what this part of our presentation is going to be all to do with is looking at the lock that we saw from the English team on the cupboard. Now what this lock has got, it's got a combination on. And what we are going to do is we're going to use some maths to crack the code. I'm going to talk you through a number of clues. Each of these clues is going to give a 1-digit answer. What we will then do is we will take each of those answers to generate our 5-number code that will hopefully allow us to unlock the padlock. And we'll see if there is anything inside it that will help us to either identify or eliminate any of the suspects. So, without further ado, we'll make a start on the clues then. What I am going to do is I'm going to go through each of the 5 clues. I'll then give you an opportunity to pause the video to have a go at answering the questions, should you not have enough time as I'm talking through them. and then when you're ready, you can hit play to see the answers and reveal to see if we've got the correct code. So, clue number one. Clue number one is that Colin has got 32 sweets. He's sharing them between himself and 3 friends equally. We want to know how many sweets do they get each. So clue number one is that Colin's got 32 sweets and he's sharing them between himself and 3 friends equally. How many sweets do they get each? Clue number 2 is that the perimeter of a rectangle is 30 centimeters. The longer sides are 10 centimeters in length. What is the length of one of the shorter sides? So the perimeter of a rectangle is 30 centimeters. The longer sides are 10 centimeters in length. What is the length of one of the shorter sides? Clue 3. I'd like you to subtract the number of sides a hexagon has from the number of sides a decagon has. So that is subtracting the number of sides a hexagon has from the number of sides a decagon has. Clue number 4 is all to do with this menu, where we've got a coffee as £1.20, a tea is 85p, and a muffin is £2.40. Now what we are told is that Sheila buys 2 coffees, 2 teas, and 2 muffins. How much does she spend altogether to the nearest pound? So that Sheila buys 2 coffees, 2 teas, and 2 muffins. How much does she spend to the nearest pound? And then finally, our 5th clue is to work out this calculation. And the calculation is 9 subtract 18 divided by 9 subtract 4. So that's 9 subtract 18 divided by 9 subtract 4. So we'll give you an opportunity now to pause the video and have a go at these questions. When you're ready, feel free to hit play. So, I hope you've all had a good opportunity to answer those questions. Just make sure now that you've got your 5-digit code ready, because we're going to talk through the answers, how we get to them, and then hopefully you've managed to get the 5 answers to crack the code to the locked cupboard. So if we have a look then at our winning combination, clue number 1, Colin and his 32 sweets, he was sharing them between himself and 3 friends equally. The important thing with this question is to realise that this is all to do with 4 people. Colin is 1 person, his 3 friends are another 3, so that's 4 people in total. If we're sharing sweets equally, we are therefore going to have to do a division. So we're going to do 32 divided by the 4 people. That means 8 sweets each. As you can see now, the first number in our combination is going to be 8. Clue number 2, the perimeter of our rectangle was 30 centimeters. If the longer sides are 10, remember there are 2 of them that are the same length, so that is 20 centimeters. What is the length of one of these shorter sides? Well, we've then got, if we've got 20 centimeters taken up of our 30 in the longer sides, the 2 shorter sides are split equally between 10 centimeters. So 10 divided by 2 is 5 centimeters. So we should have got 5 as the second number in our combination. Clue 3 then, subtract the number of sides in a hexagon, which is 6, from the number of sides in a decagon, which is 10. And 10 take away 6 is 4. So the third number in our combination is 4. Clue number 4 was all to do with our menu. Sheila buying 2 coffees, 2 teas, and 2 muffins. You could have done this in a whole host of different ways to get your answer. One way would have been to adding up all of those 3 prices, which gives you £4.45, and multiplying it by 2 to get £8.90. An alternative way is you could have done £1.20 times 2, 85p times 2, or £2.40 times 2 before adding them all together. Either way, you get your answer of £8.90. However, the question is, and from our combination, we know it has to be a single digit. The question says to how much does she spend to the nearest pound? Well, she spends £8.90. So to the nearest pound, that is £9. So our 4th number in our combination is 9. We're nearly there. And then finally, the 5th one, work out that calculation. This calculation is all to do with BIDMAS. So what we need to do is follow our rules of BIDMAS. And the reason we know it's BIDMAS is because there are multiple operations going on here. We've got subtraction and division. Now, if we were to write down the words of BIDMAS, division comes before subtraction. So we're going to have to do 18 divided by 9 first. 18 divided by 9 is 2. That leaves us then 9 subtract 2, subtract another 4. So the final digit in our combination is 3. So the winning combination here, or the combination we needed to work out to unlock the cupboard, is 85493. And if we've done that, as you can see on from my next click of the slide, we've managed to unlock the cupboard. So what we'll do now is we'll have a look inside and see if that helps us to eliminate any suspects, of which obviously you guys are aware that by now that I am one of them, or whether it makes anyone a little bit more obvious that it could be them. So the contents of the locked cupboard then was this note was found inside it, and it said to Mrs. Hazard, why isn't the transition event all about my subject? And it's been signed off as Mr. M. So does that eliminate anyone in your mind? Does it make it a bit more obvious who it could be? Have a think about it and then move on to the next section.
Welcome to Science at Royal Marsh Community School. So far, you've been following a crime and you've been piecing together different bits of evidence. We're now going to add another piece of evidence, and we're looking at fingerprints. So fingerprints, or it's also called dactyloscopy, it is the study of fingerprint identification. So police investigators collect dactylograms, which we know as fingerprints. And you can see lots of different fingerprints on the screen there. Now, there are 3 fundamental principles according to criminal investigators all about fingerprints. So number 1 is that a fingerprint is an individual characteristics. No 2 people have been found with the exact same fingerprint pattern. Number 2, a fingerprint pattern will remain unchanged for the life of the individual. However, it may slightly change due to damage or permanent scars. And the last one is that fingerprints have general characteristic ridge patterns that allow them to be systematically identified. And we're going to look at different classes of fingerprints. There are 3 for us to look at, and they are based on their visual pattern: loops, arches and whorls. 60% of people have loops, 5% have arches and 35% have whorls. And we're going to take each one and look at different examples. So the first one is loops. They have 1 or more ridges that enter and leave on the same side. Arches. They are the simplest type of fingerprint, and they have the ridges that enter on one side and exit on the other. You can see 2 different examples there. And the last one are whorls. So whorls have at least 1 ridge that makes or tends to make a complete circuit. You've got 3 different types of whorls on the screen there. Now, have a go at practicing identifying the different patterns. So we've got 5 examples on the screen. You're going to say whether they are a loop, an arch or a whorl. You can also have a go at identifying your own fingerprint patterns. Every finger will be slightly different, so you may have some fingerprints as loops, some as arches, some as whorls. See if you can have a go at identifying your own fingerprint. Pause the video now to practice these 5 given examples and have a look at your own fingerprints. Okay, so we're going to go through these answers. You should have had a go at identifying the patterns on the screen and a go at your own pattern. So A is an arch. So it enters on one side and leaves on the other. B is a whorl because it almost makes a complete circuit. C is a loop because it has the ridges that enter and leave on the same side. D is also a whorl, the same as B. And E is an arch, the same as A. So well done if you had a good go at that. And we're going to move on to the evidence. So we have been able to take the fingerprints from the murder weapon and the letter. And you can see those labelled on the left. All three of our suspects have provided their fingerprints for the investigation, and you can see each of those prints labelled at the bottom of the screen. Your job is to identify which fingerprint pattern matches the closest to the murder weapon and the letter. You can pause the video and have a go now. Okay, so now you should have had a go at identifying the closest match to the weapon and the letter. I'm not going to give you the answers, but you are going to now move on to another piece of evidence from science.
So I am Miss Batty, and today we are looking at the evidence that we got from our crime scene. So we're burning on a safety flame, safety first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it to the blue flame when I want to run the experiment. This is because it burns hotter and we're looking for colours. If I've got an orange flame, it's a lot harder to see the colour that we want to see. So, first off, I'm going to show you the powder that we got from our crime scene. The powder is laced onto this splint. So, we are running what we call a flame test. When I burn the powder, a certain colour will be shown. Certain colours link to certain metals, and this is because of the energy that those metals emit, which links to the colour. So, if I first turn it to blue, if I burn this one, we have got a very clear green flame, green being copper, so we can clearly see the green. So at our crime scene, somebody had copper on their shoes. So it is now our job to find out which of our suspects has copper on their shoes. So, give the flame a second. So, suspect one is Mr. McMahon. We are burning an orange flame. Orange links to sodium. So if we've got sodium on Mr. McMahon's shoes, does that mean that he was at the crime scene? I'll give you a minute to think about that, remembering that at the crime scene we had copper and a green flame. Suspect 2, Mr. Morley. We have a very clear green flame. Does this mean that Mr. Morley was at the crime scene? And finally, we have Mr. Claxton. We have a red flame. Red links to lithium. So I will now give you 2 minutes to think about who you think was at our crime scene. Was it Mr. McMahon, who burned an orange flame, Mr. Morley, who burned a green flame, or Mr. Claxton, who burned a red flame?
Before we reveal who committed the crime, I'd like to thank all the teachers who have taken part in our Curriculum Taster Sessions event. They're all looking forward to meeting you very, very soon. And finally from me, here are some important dates for your diary. Our next transition event will be the Meet the Tutor evening, which will take place on Wednesday the 9th of June. At this event, you'll be able to meet the teacher you'll be registering with each morning. Then, on Monday the 5th of July, you will have your first day as an RCS student and begin your 2-week rollover period. Now, let's hear from the suspects and see who confesses to the crime.
Hi everybody, this is Mr. Claxton. I can categorically rule myself out as the murderer. I did go in to see Miss, but it was not to kill her, and Mr. McMahon would be able to confirm this. He followed me into the room, also looking in quite a good nature.
Hi everyone, this is Mr. McMahon. Unfortunately, I am not the killer in this murder mystery, although I did see Mr. Morley walking on the corridor as I was coming out of the room, not looking very happy.
Okay, well done. You got me. It was me. It was a mistake. We had a meeting about the transition evening, and I thought that we didn't really need English and maths, and we can just talk about science for everything, and just not do anything else. And Mrs. Hazard, she didn't agree, and we argued, and she started walking out of the room, and I picked up the heaviest book I could, and I did hit her, and I didn't think I hit her that hard, and I really do regret it, but well done for finding out it was me.